To all of you. Can you hear me? Those in the last row? Yeah. Okay, let me begin with the short Sanskrit invocation that I personally feel it's very fitting to today's sharing. An ancient Upanishadic mantra which invites to embrace the principle of wholeness and completeness in every possible direction. Those who know the mantra can join, and those who do not can join in their own way. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. So, in Sanskrit, the word Om has many meanings. And one of the meanings of Om is basically yes. And Om is the name of God, interestingly enough. So, in the sacred Bhagavad Gita, one of the main books in our tradition, the sweet absolute, the divine, says, I'm not different from this sacred syllable Om. So one name for God in our school is Om, and Om, one of the meanings of Om is yes. So one name of God, one of the main names of God for us is yes. That says a lot. No? That invites us to have a positive orientation to reality. No? One names of God is not no. No, it's yes. No? Generally, we feel tempted to begin our day with a no. No? If you begin the day with no, probably the second step after the first no will be a second no. And the day will unfold through a series of no's, and let's pray God that some yes comes in between. But if we begin the whole conception of reality with a yes, that sets the tone for how we are invited to embrace our existence, with positivity, with hope, with love. So that's why many of these sacred mantras of prayers start with Om, yes. No. In the words of one of my teachers, Srila Bhakti Goswami Maharaj, she will say that this yes speaks about all this potential that lies in you and all these deepest necessities that the soul thirsts for and hunkers. All of that exists. All of that is attainable. All of that is possible. Yes. Right? So I always feel inspired to start with a yes. And of course, the rest of the mantra that we recited is an unfolding of that yes. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Even if you don't know the mantra, you have noticed there's one word coming over and over again, which is Purna. Purna, 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 Purna. And this doesn't mean that the author of the mantra had a stuttering problem or something. No, always the same word over and over again. No, Purna in Sanskrit means complete, means whole. So the source of all is whole. Whole with double, how to say W? W. If we are not aware of the wholeness of reality with W, we are left with the wholeness of reality starting with an H. Right? We see holes everywhere. And we need to see holes with W everywhere. So this is what this mantra says. The source of reality is whole, complete, and whatever emanates from that source is also whole and complete. The soul, us, this world, everything is a unit of completeness. But the great tragedy, if you want to call it that way, of existence is that we live our lives in many cases unaware of our completeness. and unaware of our potential for further completeness. Because then comes the paradox of completeness. A complete doesn't mean a fixed maximum, a dead end, but it's a constant unfolding of potential in love. So from that place I felt inspired to write what is my third book, recent book, Evolution in Divine Love. I happen to have it here on the table, just in case, for the picture at least. So, Evolution in Divine Love, the eternal becoming of God, soul, and matter. That has the title that emerged. And there I try to explore. I like more the word exploration rather than explanation, because explanation feels to me like a closure, like giving a definition and putting an end to the conversation, while exploration suggests an ongoing, passionate search for something that is infinite. So in this book we explore the nature of love as in constant evolution, in constant expansion, in constant becoming. And because of that, how God, the divine, however we may like to refer to him, her, them, the divine, us, spirit, souls, consciousness, and the world of matter even, each one of them embrace their own form of evolution, their own form of unfolding of potential. So today I was thinking about sharing some thoughts in connection to love. I know it may sound for some of us cliche to say, okay, let's talk about love. Like everyone talks about love, everyone has been talking about love from time immemorial. But many times we may, sometimes at least, we may not know what we are talking about when we say love. What's the nature of love? Once as I was listening to a friend recently, he was saying that once you really grasp what love actually is, there is no coming back from that, so to say. You receive a call, you receive an invitation, and there is no way to undo that, basically. Once you really get an accurate, coherent picture of what love is, it's too much to be undone after that. You cannot deny. But first we need to get a grasp of what love is. Because if not, love can just remain a word. And like with many words, we can use them with many purposes, for many intentions, to justify anything and everything. Many of the greatest abuses, horrors, forms of violence in the history of humanity many times have been done in the name of God. And God is love, so have been done in the name of love. Many of the most unloving things may have been done in the name of love. So there we have this unique paradox. And I don't want to sound naive when inviting for a conversation about love. On the contrary, acknowledging how much conflict, how much polarization there is in the world today, how much us and them mentality, how much fractured consciousness, divisiveness we are confronted with on a daily basis. You just take a look at the news for 1 nanosecond, and that may be enough dose for the day. So all the more we need to speak about love, to counterbalance all this. That's the essential message, in my opinion, of a text like the Bhagavad Gita, again, famous text in our tradition. The very first verse of the Bhagavad Gita presents the problem which is to be solved, or what causes. The Bhagavad Gita is spoken in a battlefield. Does any of you hearing about the Bhagavad Gita first time today? Or are new to the Bhagavad Gita? Then we can all lift our hands. Bhagavad Gita is ever new. So, the very first verse of the Bhagavad Gita depicts the words of a blind person. And the blindness here is not only physical, but it's a blindness in terms of lack of proper vision of things. And this blind person asks a question in terms of us and them. Pandavas mamakas chaiva kima kurubata sanjaya. This blind king Dhritarashtra is asking, what did my people and the Pandavas do on the battlefield? No. And as we know, for those who are familiar with the story, the Pandavas were the sons of Dhritarashtra's brother. His brother died, so Dhritarashtra should have felt, these are my sons now. But instead of feeling that, he said, my sons and them, us and them. So that's verse 1 of the Bhagavad Gita, creating the dualistic thinking, the fragmented consciousness, the divisiveness that creates a war. Any external war starts by an internal war. So if we are at war with ourselves, if there's a Kurukshetra going on inside, if we find ourselves in the midst of a battlefield on a daily basis with ourselves, to begin with, no wonder then the extended version of that, the macrocosmic expression of that, is large-scale war. But it all begins in the heart. So the Bhagavad Gita is addressing this principle in verse 1. No? Us and them. And then the rest of the Gita, 699 verses, are an exhaustive attempt to bring communion, to bring unity to that original fragmentation. No? All the chapters of the Bhagavad Gita end with the word yoga. Right? Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, etc. Yoga in Sanskrit means union, communion, common union. So verse 1, non-union, divisiveness. One verse, divisiveness. 699 verses. Let's try to unite the separateness. Let's try to bring union, our communion. So we live in those times. Again, Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 years ago. But in one sense, not much has changed in terms of the typical pattern of a conditioned soul, as we may call it, which is dualism, fragmentation, us and them, not seeing wholes, purnam, not seeing completeness, not seeing what we will say in our tradition, vasudhaiva kutumbakam. There is only one family, this verse says. No, there's no us and them. There are no two families. There's only one family, and we all belong to it. Thank God. It's not there's only one family, and only the selected ones, the chosen ones, the saved ones, those are the ones who belong to that only one family. No. All of us already belong. We just need to gain awareness of our belongingness. So we live in very divided times on one side, but also I will say that deep divisiveness creates intuitively, let's say even in the collective unconscious, some need for counterbalancing. And I personally have met lots of people in my travels from my tradition and other schools and other disciplines also, in terms that are really living a life of, again, counterbalancing this divisiveness, this fragmented consciousness, and trying to really bring unity, communion, love. In my lineage, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, this age, these times we are living are called Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga is generally famous, or for some infamous, as the worst possible age you could live in. Welcome. But just half of the story, so don't get in this utter despair. That's an interesting thing in one of our main books, the Bhagavad Purana, also known as Srimad Bhagavatam. In its last volume, there is a detailed depiction of how this age, these times, Kali Yuga, will unfold in time. Written thousands of years ago and somehow finding confirmation in the time we are living. So that the book almost ends there, and the reader will feel like, oh my God, this is the end of the book? The last note is utter tragedy? But that's not the end of the book yet. Then, very interestingly, the tone, still the description of Kali Yuga continues, but then the book starts to describe how in the midst of all the conflict and divisiveness that we can easily see in this age, there's also a great advantage. There's also a great quality. Simultaneously happening along with the contrasting darkness, so to say. And gradually the book starts to describe Kali Yuga in terms of those advantages that offers and praising this age. And basically the book ends on the note of praising the age of Kali, basically as the best possible age. So it's very interesting, because in one sense you could speak of Kali Yuga as the worst age, and you could speak of this age as the best age. The two simultaneously coexisting, depending in which, how you would like to align yourself to the times you are living. So that again brings us the choice. Like, you choose where to live. Heaven, hell, so to say, that's a stage of consciousness. You can choose to live your life in a way that literally feels like hell, or literally feels like heaven. Probably some of us are in between those two, trying to get closer to one point, but sometimes dragging here and there. But this is an important point that I try to also mention in my book to sober my own words, so to say. Because the book is all about evolution, it's all about love as ever-evolving, the nature of the divine in constant unfolding love. So it's real, we are not denying that, but for some it may sound a little bit like naive. So what about all these other things that are happening in the world, right? So in the book I speak about our ever-evolving potential in love, but also I speak about our ever-devolving potential in love, if we choose to explore that avenue. So free will is a quality of the soul in our tradition. We have agency, we can decide, and that can open the doors of something ever-devolving or ever-evolving. And instead, even when we choose ever-devolving, when we choose the darkest possible options, still the nature of reality is it will try to take us to a better option, to a better choice, even if we may not see it for a long time. Sometimes I like to give the example of the divine as a GPS. We are all familiar with GPS nowadays. I don't know how to drive, but I know what is a GPS, so I can. So the GPS, when you are turning on the wrong side, the GPS will not start to insult you or say like, I'm done with you, look for another GPS, you're not up to my mark. It will say, recalculating. That's all GPS has to offer. All. That's a lot. Recalculating and providing the best possible scenario to our most recent last mistake. No? You took the wrong turn, recalculating. What's the best possible scenario? You took the wrong turn again, recalculating. No? Hopefully there never comes the day where the GPS say, there's no possibility of recalculation at this point. You took too many wrong turns. We have really reached a dead end. Game over. So the GPS always keeps recalculating. Rearranging the environment to provide the best possible situation, even when we are at our lowest. No? Because we can be, what's lowest, what's highest? We can always go lower, we can always go higher. But even when we touch bottom, still there we can build our success from the pillars of failure, as they will say. So the divine will always tries to rearrange, participate in our lives in a way that tries to provide the best possible scenario and invites us to take more informed choices. That's the potential of the soul. And the potential of the soul is ultimately expressed in the context of love. Again, our brightest potential is expressed in the context of love. In our tradition, we are taught to see each other according to our brightest potential. That's not easy. Starting with ourselves, right? Many times we tend to be utterly judgmental, and judge each other on the basis of what happened in the past. We did in the past, 20 years ago. Still, sometimes there's a little voice, with a long list of you did this. Don't forget, you did and you did this also on top of that. And after that, you didn't learn the lesson, and you did this the day after. Remember? Long list, long diary. And many times it starts with ourselves. Sometimes we are relatively more generous with others, but with ourselves somehow we have not honed the muscle of self-compassion or self-acceptance. So our tradition tries to invite that, reminding us that we are being seen by God according to our highest, brightest potential. Not according to what we did in the past, thank God, not either according to who we are at the present, thank God. Still messiness may be around. But according to all that we can be, according to our brightest possibilities. That's how we are being seen from above, so to say. So we are invited to extend that same vision in every possible direction. Even when it's difficult. You won't hear me saying the word easy even once during this lecture. I only will use the word easy to say that what I'm talking about is not easy. And I'm always quickly to qualify that something is not easy doesn't mean it's impossible. Because many times we equal difficult with impossible. And then we just look for the easy way. But easy is never the way out. Because easy just keeps us where we are. There's no change, there's no growth, there's no learning, there's no evolution. So we need some healthy challenge, healthy difficulty, healthy. Again, not unsurmountable, impossible. Impossible is another word. It's another level. Difficult is the middle point in between easy and impossible. Easy on one extreme, impossible on the other extreme, difficult on the middle point. So we are all being invited to. The nature of love is ever evolving. That's one of the main themes of my book. Love continues to grow. No, love is an ever-flowing stream. Love is never like, okay, this is love. Love cannot get more loving than what it is. No, that's not how love operates. Love is a constant blossoming and growth, and we will explore that in a minute. So we are invited to embrace love, and that means to become every day a little bit more close to all that we can be in terms of love, loving potential. We generally underestimate our potential. And I'm speaking for myself here. I'm not talking about you. I don't know most of you. So I'm talking about me. I don't know most of me either, but I know a little bit. And what I could know is like many times I underestimate my potential. We all have a potential. We are who we are plus potential. You are who you are and all that you can be. And all that we can be in the highest sense of the term is all that we can be in love. That's why in Sanskrit we have these two terms to refer to us, to the soul, to the self. One word is Atma, which sometimes translates as soul, self, Atma. And then we have the term Mahatma, which means big soul. It's So it doesn't mean that the soul has augmented in physical size, right? But it means that the soul is actualizing its potential. Who you are is becoming all that you can be. So that's the invitation, from Atma to Mahatma, from being a soul to becoming a great soul, a big heart. Again, it's not easy. It takes time. I was talking today to a friend, and she was telling me how, I won't give names in particular, but she was telling me the difficulty she was having with a particular contemporary political figure outside of UK. That's as much as I will tell. And we were talking about this notion of love and the notion of ever-evolving love. And if you want to further qualify love, the notion of unconditional love. Because that's what every mystical tradition teaches, not only mine, but every. That the divine is loving us unconditionally. We don't have to earn God's love. We don't have to deserve God's love. It's already coming, given freely. That's the nature of love. It gives itself without any conditions, and it only looks more of itself. The nature of love looks for more love. Love comes from love. Love goes to love. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya, says one of our texts. Bhakti, Sanskrit term for love, bhakti comes from bhakti and bhakti goes to bhakti. Love comes from love and goes to further love. So my friend was telling me, yeah, Swami, I know that, but I'm having difficulty to loving this particular person. I won't give names, this particular person. And again, I don't need to give names. We all have that particular person probably in our own mind. Yeah, I know God loves everyone, and I love my dog and my wife and my dear, but that particular person? And sometimes that particular person is ourselves. Let's be honest. Let's say it's someone else, right? But it was nice because she told me, but at least I'm happy to know that God loves that person. I can love that fact. And before that, I was not even happy with that. So now I'm happy to know that God loves this person that I cannot love. But God loves him. And I'm fine with that. I'm not angry at God for that. So like experiencing some progress, right? So we were both celebrating that. We both knew it's not the end of the journey, but at least, okay, I can accept that God is loving that person, and I can love that. We have to be creative where to begin, wherever we are, okay, where to begin to make some small, I don't know if you say this in English, in Spanish, I'm from Argentina, we'll say ant step, which, like to begin doing ant steps, which may seem like small. What's an ant step for us? For an ant, it's a step. For us, it says, that's nothing. That's something. So, and then we were talking about this, she mentioned this idea of, there's a Buddhist meditation called metta, maybe you've heard about it, which is basically, starts with meditating, sending love and kindness, loving and kindness meditation sometimes it's called. Sending love and kindness to yourselves, and then extending that to someone you love, then extending that to someone you are neutral with, and then after that extending that to someone you are not neutral but you don't love either. Gradually getting to the hot seat, to the difficult point. And of course she will tell me, I've tried that many times, and I can go there and love the person I love, and then I can get to the person that I feel neutral toward, but I cannot get to the next level. No. And of course we were talking that there are not only 3 levels, and we were exploring. You can get to the person you love, Then to the person you still love, but you also do not love as much as the other person you love. Then you get to the person you are neutral with, and then to the next person, not necessarily the person that you love the least, but the person you are a little less neutral than the previous one, and a little less neutral, again, ant steps, till someday, some lifetime probably, it's okay, no rush, you may be able to extend love and kindness to every living entity. And all this began with, because she shared this famous quote of contemporary Christian mystic Dorothy Day that I quote often. And that's when she said, Maharaj, that line is too much. And now you're wondering what's that line about. So I'm glad that you are seated, because if not, you may probably end on the floor. So fasten your seatbelts. And the line says as this. She says, I only love God as much as I love the person I love the least. Yeah? I only love God as much as I love the person I love the least. Her idea being, my love for the divine has to be expressed and extended and reflected in all of my relationships. Like in South American native traditions, from where I come from, in some of their sacred ceremonies, they will repeat over and over again this phrase, to all my relationships, to all my relationships, to all my relationships. No. And again, with the idea of we are interrelated. To all my relationship doesn't mean to mom, daddy, brother, and sister, but it's an acknowledgement of to everything that I'm in relationship with, and I'm in relationship with everything. So again, I'm not using the word easy here. But that's the final expression of love, right? All encompassing, all embracing. No more us and them. No more two parties, or three or four. No more walls in between. We are all one family. There's no second family. The moment you start to think about two families, you start to sow the seeds of sectarianism, separatism, divisiveness. Two, and the two become four, and the four become eight, and after some time you already find so many conflicts, absurd conflicts. People, I don't know, what comes to my mind again, I'm not denying my South American roots, born in Argentina. People love soccer there, here also. Don't want to downplay English love for soccer. And people will kill each other. The only reason being, you are not in the right team, which is mine. That's enough reason for killing you. I mean, I'm not saying everyone will do that, but many will do that. As utterly absurd as that sounds. I mean, you just bring a t-shirt which is of a different color than mine and has a different symbol, you deserve death. No? Imagine the level of, the lack of integration and the lack of non-dual embrace of everyone as one family that we may have. To the point that if your t-shirt has a different color in a particular setting called soccer stadium, I may kill you. That's very primitive, right? That's very archaic. That's not the potential of the soul. That's the ever-devolving potential, which of course, indirectly, our devolving potential indirectly shows how high we can go. No. When you study the lowest darkness of humanity, indirectly that shows, if we just express our potential in the other direction, we will be so deep, so high, so generous. And we have examples of that as well. And that's what will satisfy us ultimately. Learning to love, and learning to love in a way that is unconditional, uncontainable. The closer we get to that ideal, which for many of us still may be just a beautiful romantic ideal, But we have to begin somewhere and again pursue that closer and closer. The more we do that, the more we find satisfaction. So one verse is coming to my mind. Maybe we can spend a few minutes exploring it. And of course, I'd like to open later if you have questions or something you may like to share. Those will be welcome as well. So this is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, again, one of our main texts. This is a very beautiful definition about the function of the soul and how to get the ultimate satisfaction. The verse says, Savaipum samparo dharmo jatta bhakti radokshaye ahaitukya pratihata jayatma suprasidati. The highest function of the soul, the highest expression of being, Savaipum samparo dharmo, for all embodied beings, the highest expression is Yato Bhakti Radokshaye. To express love, bhakti, loving devotion, loving awareness to the divine. And now comes the footnote before me going to the next two lines. When we say the divine, we are not saying, as I say before, it's not I love God, but I don't know how to relate with everyone else. Because ultimately, nothing exists separate from God. Again, everything exists in relationship to the divine. So loving God has to be reflected in all my relationships. To all my relationships. To all my relationships. Swaha. And I think that's an important point to make, because many times in our tradition, this is also addressed in advance. Krishna himself in the Bhagavatam, in the form of Kapila says, if you worship me but mistreat other human beings, basically your worship is useless. How you love me, how you relate to the divine, has to be extended and reflected in how we relate to whatever is in relationship with the divine. And everything is in relationship to the divine. Nothing exists outside of that relationship. And reality is relational. So, just that footnote I want to clarify. The highest function of the soul is to love God, the sweet absolute. And that includes everything and everyone. What's the nature of that love? Ahaitukya pratihata. Those two words are very beautiful, very powerful. Ahaitukya means love has no cause. And it has no cause means it comes from itself and it goes toward itself. Love is not loving for the sake of something else. No. If I'm loving you for the sake of something apart from love, I'm starting to do business with you, whether we know it or not. We have started a business company together, whether we know it or not. No, that's a loving relationship, bro. That's business. Right? And again, we have to begin somewhere. We are not here condemning anyone. But as I said before, it's good that we have a coherent definition of love, that it makes sense enough for us to be captured by it. So the nature of love is, it looks for further love. Love looks for more loving, for more giving, for more serving, for more pleasing, for more identification with the highest well-being of the object of my affection. Now, if I love you, that's a definition of love. If I love you, love is an intentional act. I'm choosing to love you. Nobody's putting a gun in my head telling me love them. Because if I love you just because someone will kill me, I'm not choosing that. No, I'm choosing not to be shot in my head, actually. Which is okay. It's a form of self-love. It can begin somewhere. So love is voluntary. It's deeply intentional. Not even partially intentional, because sometimes we say, no, I'm intentional in my relationship. But we can always be a little bit more intentional, a little bit more personal, a little bit more voluntary, intentional. It's intentional. Love is intentional. And if you have the real intention of loving someone, of pleasing someone, if your intention is very thick and condensed and invested, I can even give you a glass of water or a drop of water with full loving intention. And that will be enough. You won't be complaining, only a drop of water? Because it was not a drop of water. It was your whole loving intention. The drop of water was the vessel. That's why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, the divine, he says, water, fruit, flower, leaf, but love, with love. Offer me any of these things, and all these words in Sanskrit are in the singular. Flower, one flower, leaf, one leaf, fruit, one fruit, water, one water. What would that be? One drop with this like... But twice in that verse he used the word bhakti, bhakti, bhakti. No? With love, please. With loving intention. If there's loving intentionality, a drop of water will suffice. God himself said, my heart is conquered with the intentionally loving offered drop of water. I don't need big stuff, fancy stuff, Krishna, God says. I just need proper intention. So that's the nature of love. Ahaitukiya pratihata, love. As many mystics from many traditions will say, not only in our tradition as well, but mystics like from the Christian tradition like Thomas Merton, someone I deeply revere and love, and whom I studied before joining this tradition 26 years ago. Thomas Merton will say, very simply, love is its own reward. No? That's a very condensed sutra. No? We should sit with that and see what comes from it. Love is its own reward. Love is its own reward. If there will be some other reward as a result of love, that thing will be higher than love. There's nothing higher than love. So therefore, love is its own reward. That's what Krishna says to the gopis in the Srimad Bhagavatam, what God says to his highest devotees. Naparyaham nirabhadya sanjayam sasadhu krityam vibudaya sapiva samavajan durjara geha shrinkala sambrishya tadva pratyatu sadhuna. He witnessed the love of his lovers and says, I cannot repay back. Your love is so much that may your love be its own reward. I myself want to taste that love. I want to know that reward. That's the final theological conclusion of all mystical traditions. Love is its own reward. Haituki in Sanskrit we say. Haituki. Hetu means cause. Haituki means causeless. No? It's not caused by anything. Again, real love is unconditional. No? So it's not caused by anything. It's not that, I did something good and now God loves me. Which will imply by extension, if I do something bad, the love is over. No? So that's why every mystical tradition will insist, God is not loving, God is love. Which means, if you are love, you will always loving. If I say you are loving, that sounds like an optional attribute. He's loving. Sometimes he may be. And some other days, if he didn't have a good sleep last night, he may not be that loving. And we know many people have acquired a good dose of religious PTSD, having very distorted ideas of God. God is vengeful, bitter, resentful, easily angry, someone who needs to be appeased at every moment. And many times that's just, sorry to say, but many times that's unresolved daddy issues from our childhood, projected onto the ultimate authority figure, the ultimate dad. But God is love. We will say, Rasa Vai Saha. God is love. So if you are love, you are always loving. You are always loving. You cannot not love. There are some things that God cannot do. He cannot not love. That's our greatest fortune. And not only He cannot not love, He's always love, He's always loving, and in constant increase and growth. Because love never stays in the same place. Love is like a river that is always flowing and moving and expanding. So it's not only that God loves, but God loves more and more, unconditionally. Again, ahaituki, without cause. We haven't done anything to cause God's love. He's already loving. And that love has more love as its fruit. So love tends to become more loving and more loving. It's difficult for us even to imagine this. So don't try much, because we may set the church on fire. Because it's too much for our heads to conceive the idea of something that becomes more and more deep, loving, compassionate, embracing. But that's what the word ahaituki means. Ahaituki means love comes from love, love tends to love. And then apratihata, these are the two words of this mantra that we are reflecting. Apratihata means uncontainable, basically. Uninterrupted. Again, it's like too strong of a current to stop. It's uninterrupted. It's unconditional and uninterrupted. That's a way of saying ahaituki pratihata. Love is its own cause. By nature, love loves. And by nature, love is uninterruptedly growing, becoming more loving. Try to imagine a person that becomes at every moment more loving. Wow. And even our wildest imagination cannot grasp the full picture of what that is. In one of the verses of our tradition, Chaitanya Charitamrita will say, Sri Krishna, name for the divine, called the all-attractive, says, the all-attractive at every moment becomes more attractive. Which in itself is paradoxical, because we tend to think someone is all-attractive, you cannot get more attractive than that. But the all-attractive becomes more attractive. That means the all-attractive, really. If the all-attractive cannot get more attractive, you cannot call that person the all-attractive. In order to do justice to your name as the all-attractive, you have to increase your beauty at every moment. And that's what's the case with the divine. So it says, at every moment, Sri Krishna, the divine, is becoming more attractive, more loving, more beautiful. And at every moment, those who love the divine, those who relate to God, becomes more dedicated and more loving to that new attractiveness, to that new beauty. And that love sent to God makes God more beautiful. And God more beautiful makes His devotees more loving. And the two of them start to increase without end. The two of them engage, as the text says, engage in a competition when nobody accepts defeat. Everyone growing in love and attraction. So this is a type of love, believe me or not, that each of us can express and can embody in our highest potential. Each one of you are a unit of that. Do not ever believe, I cannot do that. Do not ever believe, that's not for me. Do not ever convince yourself, oh, that's for the saints of ancient times. Not for me, not for us in Kali Yuga. Again, we already clarified what's Kali Yuga. It's for each one of us. And the verse concludes, just in case, the last line, Jayatma Shuprasid. For the soul to attain full satisfaction, this type of love that we just described needs to be embraced. We are looking for some form of satisfaction. I mean, that's what makes us wake up every morning and leave bed, basically. Leave our bed and pursue the day. Trying to find purpose, meaning, satisfaction, deep satisfaction. Of course, many times we look satisfaction in flattering, no, like superficial ways, shallow ways. which are not satisfactory. It's just like a dopamine peak of a few moments, whatever form it takes. But to attain suprasidati, the verse says, prasidati means nourishment, satisfaction. Suprasidati means comprehensive satisfaction, deep contentment, peace, and joy on top of that, and love. We need to learn to love in a way that is a haituki, a pratihata. We need to understand that love is that way. And if we want to love, we have to accept love in love's own terms, right? I mean, love already is there, love exists, love moves in its own rules. So if I want to enter into the adventure of love, I need to embrace love for what love is. I cannot go to love and say, hey love, I have my own set of rules of how you should operate in my life. That's not how love works, and that's not how we will work. We are all students in the school of love. God included. At least in our tradition, that's what's said. Adhikar prema guru ame shishya nata. The divine says, I'm a student in the school of love, in the dancing school of love. Love is like a dancing school. You go there to that school to learn new steps, to dance in love with reality. It's a dance. When we really fall in love with reality, we will realize we are invited to a dance. And ultimately, everything is dancing. And everything is singing. Ultimately, there is a symphony in the backdrop of all of reality. So these are a few reflections of this verse of the Bhagavad Purana, which somehow I'm quoting also in my book at the beginning, which describes again the highest function of the soul that can be possibly expressed is divine love to the source, to the center, to the divine, and to everything connected to the divine, which is everything. And the nature of that love is unconditional, it's its own cause, it doesn't look for merit, deserving, and it's apratihata, it's uninterrupted, uncontainable. It can always grow more. We can always love more. And that type of love, even if we are far from realizing that in practice, even if we in theory accept, yeah, that's love, and that's, at least for me, that's how it worked for me when I discovered this, was I'm so far from that, but even in theory, that ideal sounds so charming that I'm ready to give my life to this idea in theory. To the concept, to this definition, this conception of love is so unique and captivating. Okay, I'm willing to invest my whole lifetime to try to get some practical experience of this concept. And some experience has come by grace, but there's no end to that. So we are continuing to explore the ocean of love. So a few thoughts I want to share with you today on love. Love as its own reward. Love as something that is, how to say, love is not to be understood. Love is not to be captured, calculated, manipulated by us. That's not the way to approach love, with our own set of rules, but with the willingness, the openness of the honest student to explore and discover how love invites us to dance today. It's a daily invitation to dance a new dance. Love is unpredictable. And we need unpredictability. Because many times we are control freaks. Let's put it bluntly. Control freaks. Control junkies. Addicted to things being predictable and being in our grasp and being measurable, providing us with excessive certainty. We do not do well with uncertainty. We not do well with mystery many times. We not do well with that which lies beyond our control zone, beyond our comfort zone. But love is all of that. Love is not to be controlled, not to be made a toy in our hands, But we are to be made a dancing puppet in the hands of love. That's the highest attainment of reality, of life. So it's a gradual process, getting to know love, getting to trust love, getting to realize how much in need we are of love, how much in need we are of enduring satisfaction for our heart, and how much we are being invited right now, right here, at this precise moment and forever, to this adventure of love. Because love is an adventure. It's adventurous. And that's why one name of the divine in our tradition is Urukrama, which means the great adventurer. You know? So we are all set for an adventure, invited to experience that. So anyhow, a few thoughts. Nothing scripted, just some thoughts I want to share based on some topics that I've shared in my book. Of course, the book is divided in 4 chapters, one about love, one about God, one about the soul, one about matter. I'm trying to address each one of these 4 departments in terms of the concept of evolution. But beginning with love at the source of everything, something ever evolving, ever increasing, how that affects the divine, us, and even the world of matter. That many times seems to us as not much is happening over here, but if we learn to scratch beyond the surface and explore matter beyond its surface, so much is going on there as well. And love can extend to every single fiber of the universe. So, that said, I'd like to open, if any of you have any questions, any thoughts, something you may like to share. We still have some minutes. And it can be thoughts of any type. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me. Why not? We are in a very interesting, I think it's a very interesting place for the type of conversations. Some minutes ago, before we started, I went there to explore the library. They have a library, so libraries are meant to be explored, of course. And we are in a church. So I went to the library, and one of the first books I saw is a book by Richard Dawkins. I was like, wow, this is interesting. Richard Dawkins is one of the most staunch atheist authors in the world. And they're having a book of him in the church. So I said, okay, this invites for open conversations and critical thinking and space for loving each other despite disagreements. Speaking of unconditional love. So I thought, okay, that's good. Whatever comes, there's place for that here. If Richard Dawkins can be in the church, in the library church, everything and anything can happen. Everything can be accommodated somehow. Jamuna Vihari, you were raising your hand. Then we will go to...
I was going to add to the love, the different types of love.
Yeah.
It's actually tough love.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes we meet another soul and we can see that they, rather than, too much affection in the sense of affection, they actually need a little bit of tough love.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the love that I then have to work on in order to get it across lovingly or in love is the intention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the intention of that love has to be very compassionate, considerate, and meaning in a good way. But I think tough love is quite important in the process of love. Because sometimes, me as a soul, I was glad when some of the devotees, when I lived in the temple, actually spoke to me with tough love. Because it woke me up a little bit, and it made me think a little bit how I could make some changes myself and take responsibility, rather than looking out there and wanting the love to come to me, that I could manifest it by doing some work on myself. So therefore, I'm finding that tough love is part of all these different types of love, in order to help wake a soul to a realization. As long as it's conveyed with intention,
Yeah.
with the right intention.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come from frustration or disappointment
Mm-hmm.
or disapproval. But
Mm-hmm.
actually from the intention of, I see something in this person I'd like them to see, because maybe they can then make the change, so that we can be on the same level.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Thank you. Thank you, and I appreciate your point of course, because I talked about love a lot, but of course I try to make it clear it's not that love is limited to one particular form. No, it's not that love is just caressing everyone all day. No, it may take different forms, as long as you say, as long as there is the right intention, compassion, and I appreciated that balance, because sometimes we may have heard or seen or expressed ourselves in the name of tough love. There can be abuse, or there can be unresolved personal issues that I like throwing on top of the others. No, it's tough love,
But
right?
cause more pain.
Exactly. For the other and for us still perpetrating the unresolved things from which that tough love is coming. And I remember going, without entering into details, but I remember going through a situation with someone who behaved in a particularly, what I've experienced as basically abusive way, in terms of being a spiritual authority figure, so to say, on a subtle way, but still a form of pastoral abuse, what we may call. And eventually it was said to me that, no, that was tough love. But again, okay, let's suppose it was tough love, coming from a place of compassion and wanting the best for me. And let's suppose I didn't pass the test of the tough love, and I reacted in a way of, I didn't see the tough love. If it comes from a place of love, the person who sees me not passing the test will adjust accordingly, trying to continue to help me, not to abandon me, basically. But if that happens, you cannot justify that saying it was tough love. Because you follow my point? So if I show you tough love with the right intention, but for whatever reason it was too tough for you to get the love, you only get the tough part of the equation. It can happen. I mean, I can come with you with the right heart and intention, with a tough love offering, but the other person may get stuck in the toughness and not in the lovingness of the toughness. So I will adjust accordingly, so you realize which is my intention, and I will try to help you from wherever you can learn the lesson. Not like, oh, you failed to get to see the love, good luck. You are not ready for this, and I abandon you. That's not tough love. You follow me? So I want just to extend on what you already said, because sometimes we find ourselves in dynamics like that, whether it is family, relationship, whatever, authority figure, and sometimes these words may be used to justify the unjustifiable, so to say. No, it's tough love. And in the name of tough love, something which is not very loving can happen. On the contrary, as you say, also in the name of love, I may be becoming too flattery and too superficial to be loving and to be like a harmony junkie. Everything is nice. And sometimes we need to get into the toughness of things, but lovingly, right? So, yeah, we have both dangers, both extreme expressions, those two sides of the same toxic coin, so to say, what love is not. So, thank you. That adds another layer of nuance to what we share. You raised